The following program was produced by PAC TV in accordance with the agreements PAC TV has with the towns we serve. The content of this program does not reflect the views or opinions of the PAC TV staff or board of directors.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Primetime Live at the Duxbury Senior Center via Zoom. We are thrilled to have Steve Dunn with us today. He is our assessor, and he is going to share some really important information about abatement programs that are available to older adults in the community. So welcome, Steve, and thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm glad to be here.
So it's always nice to get a little background information on our guests when we do a show. Can you tell us how long you've been the assessor for?
Well, I've been the assessor here since July of 2011. I think the thing is I've been valuing property since 1984. I started to work at Bay Bank, if some of you might remember that name, and they had the ability to become an appraiser. And they had their own office way before licensing ever took effect. And I jumped at the opportunity and worked for them for a couple of years, worked for a private firm for probably about another 4 years, and then went out on my own and worked for myself for 20 years. But that crash thing that happened in the early 2000s, luckily, I jumped at the opportunity to get a job in West Bridgewater that was part-time. I worked there, worked over in Plimpton, and then started in Duxbury in 2011.
Great. So what does a typical day look like for an assessor? Why don't we do pre-COVID and COVID? So let's start with pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID, you know, I've had even people outside when I've been socializing ask me, geez, what do you really have to do in that office? I can't imagine that there'd be that much to do. And you would be amazed that I will come in over the weekend to kind of set up my desk and clean things off from the weekend and or the prior week and set things up of what I want to have happen on a Monday morning. And I've got everything all lined up, what's going to happen. And 8:15, you get a phone call from a taxpayer. My neighbor's cutting down trees, and so it can go in various directions because I'll immediately be thrust into looking up maps, trying to educate them on GIS. There's a lot of different ways it can go and angles that can happen. Now that we're in the COVID times, what I've found interesting is the reduction in phone calls that we've gotten in this office. I think just the fact that people assume that the building's not open to the public, nobody's here. There have been people here the entire time that the building closed on March 17th. I came back the end of April and was here sporadically in and out, but always answering the phones. But a lot of our work now is done communicating via email. If anybody needs a deed, we can certainly, pull that down off the registry's website and easily email that. A plan, over their plot plan, if we can get that off the registry. So most everything we've been able to do has been able to be handled electronically. Just a few unique circumstances with large parcels of land or things we might have had to have taxpayers come in on an appointment kind of basis.
Well, thank goodness for technology. That really has helped us continue doing our jobs in a very different way during COVID.
Because one of the other things too is folks that might even have we were fortunate this year where real estate abatements, we had completed all of those by the end of February. So we didn't have any of that. But the other issue is your auto excise was due on the last day we were open, March 16th.
Wow.
So then we had people calling and that got a little cumbersome, but I think the staff and myself, we got used to dealing with that on an electronic basis and sending that in. Because I would just tell people, just take a picture of it with your phone. You don't have a copy in your house, you don't have anything, just take a screenshot of that thing with your phone and email that to me. I can print that out here. So it was a little unique at first, but I think everybody, with everything that changed for all of us, gravitated towards it, and it seemed to work well. So we were able to get a lot of that work done that way.
Yeah, so creativity definitely is happening during the last 7 months. So we're so glad you're going to talk a little bit about some of those tax and real estate programs and abatements. Can you tell us what a real estate tax exemption is?
Well, an exemption is something that has either is a standing clause that the state has, or maybe a clause that the town accepted at a town meeting at an earlier time. But it allows someone to get a reduction in their taxes based on certain criteria. There's ones that base things on asset and income, and then there's ones that base things on just strictly assets that you have. And then there are also veterans exemptions that require certain levels of disability and documentation from the VA to get those as well. There's a blind exemption that individuals can get. And then also as well, people can be exempt from CPA, either on an elderly basis or on a low income basis. So.
Right. So where would we find that complete list? There is an extensive list, and to remember all of those, that might be a little hard. So where could we find some printed documentation on that?
If you were to go to the town's website and head to the assessor's page, if you look for tax relief for seniors, right on the left-hand side, scroll down, it's right at the bottom of the list. And that will give you all the information regarding all the exemptions that are offered by the town. We are working right now, and probably should be out there by next week, to actually get a smaller flyer that is a two-sided document out on the website that may be easier for taxpayers to print off.
Great, excellent. So can you tell me a little bit about the tax deferral program, some of the things specifically available for seniors?
Sure. That's a great program, whereas, and again, it is an age-based thing. A lot of these exemptions, most of them are age 70. A deferral actually is age 65. Now, the thing that's helpful on this, to me, for taxpayers of that age or older, is if you're having any difficulty paying your taxes, you can defer all of your taxes or whatever portion you prefer to do. If you want to defer only half of them or a quarter of them, you get to select that amount. Now, we just increased that probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that the income cannot exceed $60,000 for that exemption. Before, I think it might have been 40 or 45, but we were finding people couldn't even exist on that because of the amount of taxes there are in town on some of these, some properties. I mean, our average tax bill now is topping $11,000. So this is something that can greatly help the individual stay in their home to be able to reduce that tax burden. Once somebody is in, the thing you have to be careful on this, because everyone that has rights to that property would need to sign the tax deferral lien. So obviously the homeowner is going to need to sign that. But if for some reason they had a mortgage on that property, that mortgage holder is also going to need to sign that property. And we have come across cases where banks will not sign it.
Okay.
So that's something that people do need to be a little bit careful on. There has always been this kind of looming verbiage in state law about a reverse mortgage. Apparently, a reverse mortgage supersedes town being first in line to get taxes. So should some sort of default happen, people always get very nervous that it's a reverse mortgage. Personally, if there's a tax owed on a property, the next buyer is going to have to anticipate that in their purchase. So the town's never going to lose that tax dollars. The thing that people need to be really cognizant on a deferral, though, in accepting it, is there is a small interest rate. It's at 4% while that is outstanding. Now, to get out of the deferral program, person's either going to sell their home, and at that time of sale, when they're at the closing, the town is going to be reimbursed for the outstanding balance. Now, what happens in some cases is, unfortunately, that homeowner passes away. This is the really unique part of this, is once that date of death happens, the tax deferral becomes due and payable 30 days after that date. And if it's not paid within that 30 days, then it goes up to, it's referred to as in the accounting of the town hall, as an outstanding debt. It's no longer in deferral, it's an outstanding debt. And outstanding debts are calculated at 16%.
Wow.
So it's a big jump. And this is the thing that I can't ever imagine. I know I have my 89-year-old mom. She doesn't have deferral, but I can't imagine that I'm going to be able to sell her house in 30 days.
Right.
To pay off a deferral if she had to. So these are things people have to be aware of, and maybe build that into the estate plan. Okay, I might have to pay an extra $1,000 or so, whatever it is, in insurance, because I can't imagine somebody selling something for maybe 6 months after somebody passes, and that's on a quick basis, and having to clean out a home or things. So deferral is a great program to be in. Peace of mind that large bill, if the average bill is $11,000 in town, there's one expense that's off the table, and can help those folks out.
Thank you for giving me such detailed information on that. Can you tell me a little bit about some programs for veterans?
Oh, programs for veterans. How many do we have? If I flip over my sheet here, it runs all the way from just a clause 22 to a 22F.
Well, fill us in on what those clauses are.
Well, I don't know if I'll go into detail on every single one. The standard one is generally the straight clause 22, and that is that there's a service-connected disability of not less than 10%. That affords that veteran a $400 reduction in taxes. Then for the various levels of disability that they're at, that the VA determines, is going to determine their level of exemption. That can go up to $1,250, or could be actually a full exemption on taxes.
And so if we have a veteran who's interested in that, what kind of paperwork do they complete? Where do they get the paperwork?
The best thing, if there's someone out there, and this is key, because we have a list that we mail people this veterans form every year, because these individuals have been getting it for a number of years. And I think it's great that we're doing this, because hopefully it gets out to maybe somebody that's not getting it. First thing I would tell them to do is just call the office directly. As simple as a phone call. Give us a call. We can get their name and address, find out what kind of information they have from the VA that we're going to need to actually process their application, and then be able to get them the correct form, because there are a number of different VA forms, so we want to be able to get them the right one in the mail.
So since you said to give us a call, what's your phone number? Let's say that a couple times just so our viewers can hear about that.
Sure. It's 934-1100, and the office extension is 6010.
Okay, so 934-1100 extension 6010.
Yes.
All right, so
Yep.
viewers, please take advantage of this very important credit that
Right.
might be available to you.
One other thing too to throw out to somebody who might be watching this, if they're more in tune with sending emails, which is fine, they can just go to the assessor's webpage and click on any one of our names. Click on my name, click on Sue Libby's name, who's the administrative assistant in the office, and shoot us an email. Either way, it's super easy to get in touch with us.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about the Senior Tax Work-Off Program?
That is a program that a lot of departments in the town help out with. And it's in conjunction with Joanne's office down there at the Council on Aging. Individuals, there's a sign-up period that's generally between September 15th and October 15th. And people apply, and there are various jobs throughout the town that can be completed. I think we're now up to, since minimum wage, can't even remember off the top of my head what minimum wage.
75.
Yeah.
75.
Is the hourly, the amount of hours needed to work is somewhere around 78, I believe, for somebody to complete, and they would get, it's $1,000 exemption off their taxes, and it can also be combined. This is one of the unique things about senior work-off, is you could do senior work-off, get $1,000 off there, but you might also qualify for a 41D, which could get you another $1,000 off. So it's one of the only exemptions that you can combine with another. The thing that somebody needs to be aware of on the $1,000 senior work-off exemption is there are some taxes that need to be taken out of that federally, and there may be some other fees or funds that are taken out that you do get back, but so it might not be the full $1,000. The minimum amount you're going to get would be, it's around $915 that you would get off your taxes.
Thank you. So I know this year or next year we won't be doing the Senior Tax Work-Off program because of COVID, but if we were able to, where would someone find an application?
We generally have people, if someone calls our office, we have them contact the senior center and direct them down there, because that's where the bulk of that happens. In my office here, we process those abatement, the exemption, or it's not really an exemption. It's a senior tax work-off program that allows you, there's a surcharge reduction, I think is what's referred to, the technical name. But that comes out of the overlay account. But in application, I would direct people down to the senior center.
Great. And can you tell us, or maybe even Chris, who's our moderator today, could tell us some of the jobs that people have performed in the Senior Tax Work-Off program?
Steve, do you want to share, or do you want me to just list some of the departments?
I'll have you do all that part.
Okay. So we have a lot of wonderful volunteers. Actually, I see a few faces here who know full well where they can find positions within the town, at the library, at the fire department, here at the senior center, within some of the departments at town hall. It's a tremendous asset to the town to have people like backfill some of the work so that it alleviates some of the work that the employees have to do. And I think it's a great way to get to know what's going on in town. So I think Frank had a question though before. It probably was about the veterans. Do you want to unmute yourself, Frank?
Yes, if I could back up just a little bit, when you talked about veterans' disabilities being eligible for a tax exemption, hearing impairment is included in the ADA, American Disabilities Act. So I wondered if that would apply to this particular situation, if you have a hearing impairment.
There's nothing directly for a resident There is a blind exemption, but there's nothing that the state offers for anyone that has a hearing problem. If you're a veteran and that's a disability, and you can get the letter out of them, then that's something that we can process. And it would again, a veteran has to show at least 10%, a minimum of 10% disability to get the 400, and then that can change. You could have a 50% disability, and you'd get a different, level of exemption. But if you're a non-veteran and you have a hearing problem, there's nothing that the state offers for that.
Great, thank you for the question.
Yeah, the first step is to contact the VA, right, Steve, to make
Yes.
sure that they complete. So the first step would be to contact the VA, Frank, and have the appropriate testing and documentation. And then I think you submit it to Steve's office.
Right.
And you go from
If Frank would be a first-time applicant as well, the one thing we're also going to need is a DD 214, which is the discharge paper.
Yeah.
And then the documentation from the VA stating what their level of disability is.
Okay, I could probably get some of that information from Mike Thorpe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And the thing, Frank, to realize too is we might have talked earlier that we like to try and get these things in by November 30th because we can show it on your actual bill, but you actually have till April 1st to get these documents in.
Okay.
So it's not something that you're under the gun to have happen in 2 weeks here.
Great information, and thank you. So just wanted to go back to the senior tax work-off because we do have 35 people who participate. So how long does someone have to complete the work?
78 hours.
78 hours, and it can, they have the whole year though, or?
Yes, it would be January through December. And that hourly, the amount of hours that an individual is going to have to work is going to change yearly because I think we're going to get up to $15 as minimum wage at some point. So whatever it takes to complete the $1,000 at $15 an hour, that keeps getting reduced. So you might be down to 70 or only 65 hours at some point.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about any of the abatement programs or the assessor's office?
I guess the last thing I'll leave you folks with is I have to believe there's more people out there that could qualify for an exemption. And I just wish they would take advantage of it. Some folks, for whatever reason, will not contact the office or think it's going to be a cumbersome process, and it really isn't. Some of these things require very little information that we're asking of the taxpayer, and everything is held strict confidential in this office. So it's a very simple process to be able to get a little bit of money off your tax bill. Taxes are not cheap in Duxbury, so if we can offer anybody help in that area, we'd really like to be able to do it.
Great. Let me get that phone number again for our viewers.
Sure, it's 781-934-1100, and the office extension is 6010.
So let's look at the chat and see if there's any questions, or if any of our viewers have a question and you want to raise your hand, we'd love to take those questions now.
I think Fred has a question.
Yes, you had mentioned earlier about a number of possible reliefs that could be used, but we've only really discussed two so far. Is there anything other than the veterans and the work program?
Well, there is I'll go down them briefly, and there's a clause 17E, and that is an asset-based exemption that gets $299 off your taxes. Clause 37A, that is for blind exemption, is $500. A 41D is both an asset and income test and would allow for $1,000 off your taxes. The 41A is the tax deferral. You can also get exempt from CPA either under an elderly income scale or a low income income scale. So there's really no age limit to a CPA. It's just based on income on there. And then there's also the work off program and then the veterans.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? So
You
it
don't
doesn't
have a
look like-
lottery or anything like that, huh?
No, no lottery. No lottery, Fred.
I thought I asked.
Can't hurt to ask, right?
That's right.
So Steve, we are so thankful to have you on today and share this very important information. And we hope our viewers will take advantage of the abatement programs and reach out to Steve in his office and at least ask the question
Right.
because, you know, the goal is to be able to stay in Duxbury. It's a wonderful town. And if you need some assistance with one of these abatement programs, Steve is here to help you. So Steve,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
I think if we're here to service the taxpayer. I mean, it's available to the elderly. Call and ask the question. Simple as that.
Great. Thank you so much for being on our show today and be well.
Thank you.